let me have a final question with Ash on this.
Yep.
That is relating to Palestine. Uh,
Mm,
so okay, Ash, the sentiments and the emotions in the community, especially in Park Road and Wally Road, is
mm,
around Palestine, and people
yep.
people will be voting on the views that the parties or the individuals have relating to Palestine. So briefly, can you describe your involvement or your activism relating to uh, the 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 genocide that is happening in Palestine, your political views, because you mentioned in your introduction that you joined the Liberal Party to avoid extremism of the
Mm.
Labour left and the Tory right. So that's something that I've noticed down. So
Yep.
from this word of extremism, how would you class the current political two-party system of Labour and Tories
Mm.
with reference to
Well,
extremism?
in relation to Gaza and Palestine, what's happening there obviously is totally unacceptable. Because I'm a liberal, in general terms, I feel that everybody has a right to their own self-government, govern their own state, both Palestinians and Jews. Um, there's many things which has gone before in relation to Palestine and Israel, but talking about the current situation, the current crisis was actually instigated by Hamas, not by the Palestinians, but by Hamas, who are designated as a terrorist group. I believe that Israel has a right to defend itself, but what they're doing now is totally unacceptable and does almost amount to genocide. And we cannot condone either action, either Hamas's initial attack or the way in which Israel have responded to it, massively over-responded to it. In that sort of context, we as a Liberal Democrat group have taken action also in council on this. Very quickly, every council meeting there is an opportunity to put forward a motion where we say we're not happy about something or we'd like this to be done about it. On the 14th of February, there was a council meeting and the Liberal Democrat group put forward a motion in relation to this subject. The process, the way it works is that the first political group to put forward a motion come first on the agenda because they were keen enough on the whole process to do something. So we were first on the agenda as far as the motion was concerned before anything had been put forward to do with this by either of the other political groups. And very quickly, let me just quickly read out the motion, which says, this council notes with growing alarm the climbing death toll of Palestinian civilians subject to Israeli bombardment. The systematic destruction of residential buildings, mosques and churches and attacks on hospitals have destroyed Gaza's social infrastructure, leading to a huge number of civilian deaths. The situation in Gaza is profoundly disturbing to many residents of Calderdale who have links with or feel affinity for those directly affected by those who come from Palestine and the Israeli communities. Local residents, especially those from the Jewish, Muslim and other faith communities, look to this council to provide civic leadership that expresses these concerns, and that is not evident. And therefore, we are asking council to resolve to call on the UK government, specifically through the Foreign and Commonwealth and Development Office, to support an immediate ceasefire, to request that the borough's 2 MPs also support this ceasefire, and we welcome and support displaced Palestinian refugees in Calderdale, as well as being part of the City of Sanctuary, which is something we're doing for refugees in general. So we are specifically asking for actions to be taken and explaining our sincere and heartfelt horror of what is being carried out there. And we were the first party to actually stick our heads above the parapet and say that.
Okay, so
So I think that's
leading question here is uh, the question of extremism. Now,
yeah.
you mentioned in your open speeches that you joined the Lib Dems because of the extreme views of Labour and Tory. Would you
Mm.
class the situation and the way the Labour and Conservatives are reacting on the issue of Palestine? Uh, are they being too extreme?
I don't think they're being extreme enough, actually, which sounds a bit perverse, but the Labour group will say all the right, nice things about supporting Palestinians and the problems they have and all those sorts of things, but they don't actually come out and do and say anything.
No,
I think we're extreme.
sorry, I think the main question is Keir Starmer's initial statements that stopping the water, food, electricity into Gaza.
Mm.
What's your views on this?
What, what he was suggesting that should be stopped.
That should be, yeah, yeah. If you're politically aware, I mean, Keir Starmer initially he said that we should not the the Palestinians don't have the right to water, electricity, and gas, and he was pro-Israel against.
Cannot believe that. I
Yeah,
cannot believe that of that man. I would have thought better of him. If he actually said that, I cannot believe it. And of course, it's very simply, it's rubbish. And it's horrible, nasty rubbish
yeah,
to say such a thing. And the Conservatives are just messing about and not really doing anything either. Not
yeah.
really. They're sending Lord Cameron out there to chat to a few people. And again, they're not actually doing anything about it.
Yeah. So I'm really surprised that you don't know the words of Keir Starmer at the beginning of October 7th. Exactly, he
Okay.
mentioned that on LBC, and that I
Mm.
think him being an international lawyer, I think is contradicting himself. He's very hypocritical.
Yeah.
That's the views of the general public of Park Water.
Mm.
Now,
Yeah, I mean, I obviously missed that specific thing. It's possibly partly due to my lack of general interest in politics,
yeah,
but that is a horrendous thing to say. If he did in fact say that, and I'm not refuting what you're saying, I'm just saying I hadn't heard it. If he did say that, it's totally unacceptable.
so
Yeah.
Paul,
I think
that's
I think the difficulty we face at a local level
yeah.
is, and it's what I mentioned
Mm.
to you earlier on in a message,
Yeah.
is we don't have the power and authority to make those changes and decisions at a national level. All we can do as local councillors is ask our leaders, our CEO of Calderdale, to put forward the messages that we want to get back to government. And that's about it. It's frustrating for us. It really, really is. But we don't have that power. And we can see what's going on down in London, in Westminster, and what the MPs are doing and the leadership of this country are doing and saying. And as Liberal Democrats, it frustrates us, really frustrates us to the bone, that these two, Labour and Conservative, are too busy arguing against each other to score points against each other rather than actually moving things forward to protect people in other countries. And, you know, I think this is where we differ as Liberal Democrats. We'd be the ones that's doing something rather than talking about something at the end of the day. But unfortunately, at our level in Calderdale, we don't have that power to be able to do that, only for our voice. That's all we've got is
I
our
mean,
voice.
absolutely right. I mean, there's limitations on as to what the councillors can do.
Mm.
But the main reason why you are elected is because of your voice. Now, that's a leading question. What have how have you used your voice for the people of Palestine? There
Yeah.
are,
And we've done that through listening to people and putting forward that motion.
The
Uh,
moment says it, doesn't it? That's the answer. That's what we can do, and we've done that, and we were the only party to put that forward in the first instance to make that known and make it public.
yeah.
okay, let's talk a
It was
bit.
only
Let's talk a little bit about the motion. You're the first one to put the motion in. So what happened to
Yeah.
that motion?
Well,
Labour. Do you want to answer it? I'm happy
you,
for
you
that.
two got Paul. You were there. You as well.
Basically, what happened was that our motions get put forward to our administration within the authority, our democratic services. and the other parties then get to see our motion, what we're putting forward. Now, obviously, because we were the first ones to do that, the other parties saw ours first, and then Labour obviously weren't happy that we put forward this motion, and then decided to put one together themselves. But what they wanted us to do was to drop our motion totally and support theirs, which to me is like, well, that's a little bit unfair, really, because we've already done the work. We're the ones that's listened to people. We're the ones that's taken it on board for people. And for us to drop it, it's like, what would those people think of us if we said, I'm sorry, but we're not putting our motion forward anymore. We're going to go with Labour's motion. So I said we wouldn't. I said we wouldn't support Labour's motion, but they could put an amendment in to maybe strengthen our motion if they could come up with something good. And if they did that, then we would look to support it. However, Labour's amendment was to totally wipe our motion, totally go against it and put forward replacing it with their motion.
No.
And because they have the numbers to do that, that is basically what happened, which was unfair because at the end of the day, we're wanting the same thing. But
the important point is also, sorry, Paul, the important point is that they did not think of it in the first place. They only saw our motion and thought, oh, heck, we better do something on this then, otherwise it's going to make us look bad. They did it as an afterthought and then wanted to take it over.
Okay, now the question, Paul, what you just mentioned here is numbers. Now, can you elaborate a bit about numbers? Why? I mean, can you explain more? What do you mean by numbers? They had the numbers to do it.
Right, because in Calderdale, Labour has the majority of councillors out of the 51 councillors. Conservatives are the opposition party, which means they have the second and largest amount, and then there's us as the Liberal Democrats. With Conservative and us and Independents, we together do not have the numbers to match or have overall say over Labour. We don't have more numbers to I'm trying to get the words right, to be quite honest.
So are you trying to say that the Labour Party bullied you to reject your motion? Is that what they're trying to do?
I won't say bully us, but they used the political power behind their majority to be able to overrule us, basically.
Yeah.
It's the party with
the ordinary man like myself would say that they threw their weight on you and punished you, bullied you to reject your motion. So it's like a schoolboy thing that we are bigger than you, so we're going to bash you around.
There's a danger of that. And I think the bottom line is that currently Labour have more councillors than Conservatives and Liberal Democrats put together, which means they have what's called an overall majority.
Yeah.
If, for example, in Park Ward, if we could get a Liberal Democrat elected in Park Ward, it would mean one more councillor who supports all the things we're talking about here and one less Labour councillor.
Yeah.
You would end up in a situation where Labour didn't have an overall control, which would mean that this is very political stuff, and I'm afraid we have to do this, but that would mean that we could then, they would need our support to do something that they wanted to do, which means that we could influence what they do. So the important thing is that we need to get Liberal Democrat councillors into wards where there are Labour councillors, get rid of a Labour councillor, get a Liberal Democrat in, which will mean that Labour do not have an overall control in the borough and that we can seriously influence things even more than we do at the moment. That's the important thing.
Well said, Evans, but from my analysis, Labour has a majority, the Labour has 28 councillors
Yeah.
Conservatives have about 16, and there's about 6
Yeah.
Lib Dem. Now, the
Yeah.
majority that the Labour has is 3, because they need
Yeah.
25 to balance because there's 51 councillors.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Park Ward is very important because there are 3 councillors that are elected in Park Ward. So if the
Yeah.
Park
Well,
Ward goes independent, the Labour, because there's 3 councillors in Park Ward, if Park Ward goes
yeah.
independent, and the Labour will lose their majority, then
Yeah.
whatever independence or whatever Park Ward decides, whether they go independent, Lib Dev or Conservative or
Yeah.
Green or whatever, yeah, that will reduce the majority of the Labour Party, and then we can have a hung council. Do you think hung
Yeah.
council is healthy?
That's the word that's used for it. Yes, where there's no overall control. And that's what we're trying to create, so that we can influence the Labour group more. Yes, if independents get in part, if we manage to get, say, 1 Lib Dem in, which obviously we'd like to because we believe in ourselves, but there were then 2 independents who got in, that certainly would mean that Labour didn't have an overall control. And that would, I think, would be very good for people in Park Ward, and I think it'd be good for people in Calderdale.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of talking about hung council, so if there was 3 independent candidates from Park Ward, how would Lib Dem, Ashley and Paul, how would you see them, the independent candidates, you working with the independent candidates from Park Ward?
I mean, we have worked with independent candidates before, but the only thing is, as an independent, you don't have the backing of a national party. You don't have the finances to support you like that like you do with a national party, especially when it comes to election time. We have basically, we do follow our party line as well, nationally, what they're, what's the word I'm looking for? Their policies and procedures are, at the end of the day, what their manifesto is. And that's the reason why we joined the Liberal Democrats, because we agree with the way they want to run politics with their manifesto. So I would rather see independents join us as a group to obviously make the Liberal Democrats grow, basically, at the end of the day. So it'd be nice to get into a position where we can run the council. I can't see that happening, but again, I'd be happy as having a hung council, because it'd be us that has the balance of power with any decision. At the end of the day, they wouldn't go to if the Conservatives came up with a great idea, for instance, or Labour came up with a great idea, they would not go to the independents and ask for the support. They would usually come to us as Liberal Democrats, because we're the 3rd biggest, or within the council. So it would be down to us at the end of the day. If we've got more numbers than independents, then even if Labour got independents to support them, they probably still wouldn't get what they needed to get through, and vice versa for the Conservatives. So it's ideal, really, if they're going to join something, join us as Liberal Democrats, and then that strengthens the decision processing.
Gives them more power, doesn't it?
It does. It gives us more power. And we'll then go to Labour and say, right, well, I'll tell you what, we'll support this idea of yours if you support us on our idea. And likewise with the Conservatives as well, we'll go with whichever one we think is going to be more beneficial for the people of Calderdale. And that's the best position to be in, really.
Yeah.
And if it did happen, we got some independents, then in the first instance, my first reaction will be, you work with them, you talk to them, you communicate. And okay, they may have some views which are different from yours, and we would have some which are different from theirs, but we would work with them. We could use that extra power to influence what Labour were doing. Obviously, from being tribalistic, if you like, we'd like them to be Liberal Democrats. But if they are, we're very happy to work, as we do with the Greens we work with them on a number of other issues. We have very similar views, actually. It's just that they have the Greens have more of a bias to be very concerned about the way the environment is being treated. Our argument would be, well, we have that view as well, so why do you have to be a Green to look after the environment? But that's a political argument. So what I'm saying is, if there are people other than Labour we will work with them
Yeah.
to the better benefit of the people in that ward.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there's
And
only
there's no reason why the independents can't join us later on down the line if they wanted
Well,
to.
that's it. Yes,
yeah.
naming politics again, Paul.
At the moment, there's only one seat available in Park
Yeah.
Ward. And
Yeah,
Wood
yeah.
Ward,
Yes.
there's only one seat.
It's one each year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So realistically, real changes on a local level is going to be in 2026, where all three seats
Correct.
will be available, and that's
Yeah.
where the real
Yeah.
change is going to happen on local politics, and
It
real
will.
Yeah.
swing is going to happen towards whether it's Labour, Lib Dem, Independents, whatsoever. And I think the organization that we have, Halifax Voice, I want, we want volunteers to come forward to the good work that we're going to be doing, especially Paul and Ashley, to listen to our objectives. And the objective, our objective is to amplify the voice of the councillors first. And if they don't come forward, then the Halifax Voice will assume certain things, and then amplify the voice for them, provided the information that we have. So I think this interview has been quite good. Paul, I would definitely need to get some more time of you, and we're a bit conscious on time. Ashley,
Yeah. No, that's fine.
it's been
Mm.
very nice meeting you, and I think this interview has been really good. What are your views, Paul
Yep.
and Ashley, about this setting and interview?
I think at the end of the day, things like this, if they're going to benefit us as a party and get people to understand who we are as people, I think that's the main thing.
Yeah.
People, we get a lot of, I can say, bad press, bad publicity because of the party that we support, rather than people actually knowing us for who we actually are as individual people.
Yes.
You know, I think if our constituents got to know us more as individuals, they would probably support us more. Do you know what I mean? We'd probably get a hell of a lot more votes. So it's things like this that can help us do that, because people then, constituents of Calderdale, can get a little bit more of an insight as to us as human beings, as people, and what we
That's
stand
absolutely right.
rather than politics.
That's absolutely right, Paul. And I'd like to apologize because I didn't get much information out of you, Paul. I think we need another session, maybe 45
No,
minutes.
it's right. I mean, the interview was for Ashley anyway. Really, I had sort of like
Yeah. So if
gate crashed.
you got any time,
I'm going to have to go, I'm afraid.
okay. Thank you very much. Nice
yeah.
meeting you, Ashley.
Nice
Thanks.
seeing
Bye.
you. All the
Yeah.
best.
So
We'll catch up later, Ashley, if we can.
yeah, Paul, if you got a bit more time now, we can probably go through some of the questions that I'll let Ashley go first. Yeah.
Right.
Paul, if you've got a bit more time, then we can continue where continue with some of or shall we
Yeah,
shall we have
I can do another 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think we need another session, like half an hour, maybe tomorrow or
Right.
something.
Tomorrow I'm back at work.
Yeah.
It might have to be evening time. Depends on what I've got on.
The reason we want to get this now, let me stop this here because I just need to
Yeah.
conversation.